Hey, good morning. This is David, the Ranger Naturalist at Reelfoot Lake State Park, coming to you today from out in the swamp at Reelfoot Lake. Reelfoot Lake is a really unique natural area. Of course, the lake formed by the earthquakes of 1811 and 1812. About a 30,000 acre natural area in total. Some of it open water, some of it pretty dry land on normal conditions, and then a good portion of it is what most people would call swamp. So this morning I'm out in the swamp waiting around looking for one of my absolute favorite spring flowers. Blooming in early to mid-May. They've just really started blooming good, so I decided I would take a walk today and take you along with me and try to find a couple of them. And what I'm looking for today is the copper iris. Copper iris is found throughout the southeast in very, very limited habitat. It is an iris that grows what we like to call feet wet. So it will be growing out in the shallow water, typically water definitely not more than a foot deep, a lot of times only a couple of inches deep. But it doesn't do well on dry land. It is a wetland plant, so that makes it fairly rare because we as a species tend to drain our wetlands and turn them into something that we consider more productive. So we're going to ease out through the swamp, and we're looking for lots of stuff. But the main purpose today is the copper iris and one other plant that we're going to find a little bit later. So we're going to ease up on this patch. You don't have to sneak up on flowers. I'm more of a wildlife guy, for those that knows me. So usually when I'm out with the camera, I'm sneaking up on stuff. Well, when we're looking for flowers, don't have to sneak up on them. But I'm still being sneaky because I don't know what else I might find while I'm out here. So to base it, a nice big cypress tree. Of course, Reelfoot ecosystem is dominated by cypress trees. So we're going to ease up in this first patch of copper iris, and this patch only has one bloom that is open. So we're going to zoom in on it what we can, try to hold the camera still. A nice coppery color. Then pull back. It has a couple of blooms that are not open yet. It's just getting ready to open. So, and most of the time, there's a couple of exceptions, and we'll look at a couple of those later. This iris here at Reelfoot grows in just these very small colonies out in the swamp. And this is at the base of a cypress, so a little drier than the air around it, not much. I'm standing in about a foot of water to ease up to these. So copper iris, one of my favorite plants, the first patch we've looked at, and then I'm going to go roaming through the swamp because I know in this area of the swamp there are a couple of other patches as you walk through the swamp. Of course, a couple of things you have to watch for. One is the cypress knees. Around the base of these big trees you have lots of cypress knees sticking up out of the water. So I want to ease back and try to find another couple of patches of copper iris to show you. It is found across the southeast in a variety of areas, but it is an iris that many people, in fact most people even that come to Reelfoot Lake, have never seen it or never noticed it. And we're walking through a variety of other plants, lizard's tail and several other things. So we're going to ease up on this first pretty patch of copper iris. Back a little bit of a distance. You can see it's not a very big patch, maybe 15 plants, and it does spread by the roots or the seeds floating in the water. Also the roots will sometimes wash up and float. So anyway, so let's ease in and get a good look at this coppery flower. Very, very beautiful flower on top of the iris. Got a couple in this one that have not opened yet. So it's, once again, it's just kind of beginning to bloom. So one of my favorite flowers. So we're looking at this one and just looking out through the swamp. I've spotted another small patch not too far away, and sometimes they grow in some fairly good clusters or colonies. So this one's kind of under a limb, so let's pick it up. Another one that's not opened. This one just has about 4 plants coming up. Another beautiful view of the flower. So copper iris, a wetland flower, and we're going to look at several of these. So I'm going to be easing around through the swamp out here. And definitely easing around through the swamp is not for everyone. Doesn't bother me. Basically, trip hazard, watching for the cypress knees. You can see the knees are very, very, very thick in this area. So just kind of taking my time walking, looking for plants and other creatures. So we're going to go look at a variety of copper iris colonies today, and then probably one other plant. Okay, so we have another little group of copper iris that I've located. This was at the base of a large cypress tree. Reelfoot is dominated by cypress tree, the ecosystem. And some of the real big trees are actually pre-earthquake. Got a video on our channel that's about one of the biggest trees that's well over 500 years old. Different topic. Anyway, I'll roam around a little bit. But anyway, back to another colony of copper iris at the base of this tree. You can kind of see it spread out. This one only actually has one bloom that's already opened, and then several that's in the process, so almost opening. So literally this is the 14th of May, and you've got about another 2 weeks, and this flower will be done for the year. So like a lot of spring flowers, has a fairly short season. On the copper iris here at Reelfoot, you're looking at about 2 weeks from the first flower we'll see bloom until they're done for the year. So while I'm out roaming around in the swamp this morning trying to find the copper iris, I did find one other of my favorite spring plants. It is a flower, even though most people don't really look at it for a flower. But I wanted to just share it with you too, just because it's so unusual and most people have never noticed it even if they see it. It actually grows from Maine down to Georgia on the floodplain. It is a total floodplain plant. Grows in the water. The water's dropped off of this colony, so they're only in about 3 or 4 inches of water, but it's really unusual looking. It's called feather foil, and the leaves, when the leaves are floating, look very much like long feathers, and these are kind of covered with mud and muck, so it's really hard to see the leaves because the water's dropped. You can kind of see the feathery pattern to the leaves, and it is in full bloom, and you can see it's a very small plant. Typically, once again, it's rooted in the shallow water, but then it floats, and if the water gets too high, it breaks off and floats away and gets killed. But that's also how it moves to new areas. And there's about probably 20 plants here in this area, and this year some years there's lots of feather foil. Depends on water level conditions. This year not that much. In fact, not much at all, at least in this area where I'm walking today. But I do know it grows here about every year. But once again, about 20 plants. I'm gonna move to a couple of them just to kind of share with you the shallow water. Oops, the feather foil, the green stems, and they are the stems are inflatable. They're enlarged and hold a big air pocket, so that helps it float. You can see kind of the mashing, how it's just a big inflated, very soft stem. Another couple of individual plants, but not a common plant at all on any year. And with this year, we had very high water early, a lot of flooding, and now the water's dropped out a little bit. And you can see where I'm holding this one up, it could have grown up to about a foot deep. Once you get about above a foot deep, then it'll break off and float away. But the flowering part floats on the surface. So just one of my favorite plants that we run across kind of in the edge of the swamp in an open area. It needs a little more sunlight, so it doesn't grow in really deep shade. But the feather foil, just another really nice wetland plant that most people never observe. Hey, another small patch of copper iris. This one really only has one plant growing kind of by itself, growing up out of some cypress knees along the edge, a little bit more open. But it's got one flower that's really almost perfect on that one, and then one that's almost through, and then a couple that haven't opened yet to bloom. So kind of, it grows, once again, not where everyone wants to walk, but it is it's an indicator of a healthy wetland ecosystem. So I hope you've enjoyed joining with me today as I've roamed around in the swamps of Reelfoot Lake, and you've got to go along with me just a little bit to see two of my favorite wetland plants that are blooming typically in early May. So hope you've enjoyed this short visit looking at a couple of really nice flowers and unusual parts of Reelfoot Lake and things that most people that come here never observe. Hey, I'm now at the largest patch of copper iris that we've located on our trip in the swamps of Reelfoot Lake today. This one has probably 100 plants that are blooming really, really pretty. So I'm going to zoom in on several of them, some really pretty flowers. This patch is actually a little bit farther along. Most of the flowers have opened. There's still a few that have not, still growing in shallow water. This patch is mainly in water about a foot deep, which typically you don't see them a lot deeper than a foot deep. Occasionally, but not much. A foot deep's about it. And just beautiful, beautiful iris that once again most people have never seen. And just kind of some information. If you want this plant for yourself to look at in your yard, they do grow very well in water gardens. Once again, they're feet wet. They're not going to be growing. They're not going to do well in dry land. You can't just plant them out in your yard in dry land and it's not going to grow. But it does very well in a water garden. And there are several native nurseries that sell native plants that sell the copper iris. So you cannot come and dig them on our state park. Bad. No, do not. We don't. You're going to be in big trouble if we catch you out here digging them on our state park, as well as any plant on our state park. But a lot of the really special plants you can find on our state park are grown in native plant nurseries because people love them, and they're sold. So you can buy copper iris. Once again, it would grow primarily in your water garden. And so I guess as you visit our state parks, places like Reelfoot, it's known for the cypress trees and the bald eagles and the fishing. But there's a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of stuff like this that most people never observe. Or, I mean, even they walk by it and it may catch their eye and they think, oh, that's a flower I've never seen before. And then they never explore any deeper. But so anyway, it's a beautiful, beautiful plant. And I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about, once again, two of my favorite spring wildflowers here at Reelfoot Lake. And as the summer progresses and we get more plants coming up, I plan to do we'll do other short videos like this about the unique ecosystem of Reelfoot Lake. So kind of stay tuned for the water flowers when they start blooming and other things. We're jumping into this digital world of sharing our information about Reelfoot Lake, and so far it seems to be going very well. But wanting to take advantage of the full bloom of the copper iris. So thanks for joining with me. Come and visit us at Reelfoot Lake or any of our 56 state parks. Observe the beauty, the waterfalls, the mountains, the great big views. But don't forget to look for the smaller stuff. We just have, tremendous diversity that's protected and shared in our Tennessee state parks. So have a great day and stay safe out there.